How's it going, everyone? It's Sam. We have some big news. We have a lot going on. I want to talk about it. I'm not going to do the full preface because this is actually my third time trying to record the video. I've had some technical difficulties, so I'm going to fly through the information in this video. If you like that, hit subscribe, turn on the bell notification underneath the video. There's also a link down there to HGAaccess where you can get information you can't get anywhere else because we have a bunch of influencers that are talking to projects all the time, and we then talk to you about the projects, the ones that we think will do well. There's also a link down there to Margex where you can trade cryptocurrency. You can set it up in 2 minutes. You can set it up and start depositing. They have some of the best customer service out there. If you have any questions, you can talk to someone, a real person, within a minute or two. So check out both of these underneath the video. I like both of these products. I love them. So let's get started. The SEC delays the decision on the BlackRock Spot Ether ETF. This is expected, at least for me. Some people are selling the news, or selling the fact that they aren't getting this spot ETF. This wasn't the final deadline, so I don't know why anyone would expect the SEC to approve this right after they approved a Bitcoin ETF. I think this will be delayed until probably a few months from now. Maybe the final deadline, probably the final deadline, which I believe is right around May. I could be wrong on that, but that's what I remember. We also have the big EIP update this year, which will be lowering the fees for Ethereum. It's also deflationary. I think this will be a big narrative. Keep in mind, though, when this does get approved, Grayscale holds a lot of Ethereum. People might sell just like they're doing with GBTC. So keep that in mind. Great for the long term of Ethereum, but short term, anything can happen. Manta is a crypto that I don't hold anything in, or I don't hold any position in. And I'll get to Bitcoin here in a second, but Manta has just done incredibly well. I want to bring it up here. It's up 27% on the day. It's a $3 billion market cap. The market cap right now is $775 million, but the total diluted is $3.1 billion. This is crazy. I had a chance to buy this when it was 60 cents or something like that. I passed on it. Now it's done incredibly well. This shows you what can happen in a bull market. We can have cryptos that go up hundreds of millions of dollars if they are good and if they actually have some utility, some usage. Bitwise just made a history. They became the first US Bitcoin ETF to publish their public address. That's cool. You can go see how much Bitcoin they have at any one time. You can see the inflows. So far, they've had no outflows, but you can see inflows here. And I even showed this address in the last week and a half or something like that showing. And you could have told that this was ETF just from looking at it. I even mentioned that in the comment section of that video that I made that I included this ETF. Like, they buy once, maybe twice a day, but pretty much once a day when the market's opened. They haven't had any outflows. They started the day after the ETFs were approved, so it was pretty much obvious that this was an ETF. Now, I wanted to look to see if there were any other ETFs that were obviously buying. It was obvious what their wallet was. This looks like a wallet that is from an ETF. I could be wrong, but they have no outflows. They started the day the ETFs were approved. They had the first actual significant inflow the day after. But the Bitcoin is off a little bit from any on this list. They have 13,014 Bitcoin. So maybe this is just maybe this is one of Fidelity and BlackRock's ETFs, or one of their wallets in their ETF, and they just have it spread out. I wouldn't be surprised if some of these had multiple wallets. This entity is also interesting to look at. I just find it interesting to watch the whales. They started buying yesterday, or transferring into this wallet, 1,300 Bitcoin, 90 Bitcoin, 1,500 Bitcoin. Anyways, they got up to 12,500 Bitcoin. Then they just sent all of this to Binance to dump it. I don't know. I don't know what happened there, but maybe they just transferred and they're transferring somewhere else. I'm not exactly sure, but it's fascinating to see someone just make so many rash moves so quickly. Within 24 hours, just about 24 hours, they dumped money in here and then dumped money out. Actually, 13 hours. Just fascinating. So I like to look at these. Also, you can see this wallet, or these wallets are really fascinating too. Whoever this is, whoever these wallets are, I think are owned by the same people. You can see 1205, 1205, 1205, 1205. December 5 of 2018, someone sent all these wallets within 12 hours. They sent them all 8,000 Bitcoin. So they're about 24, 25 wallets here. So that's 200,000 Bitcoin were sent all on the same day. So it's very likely this is the same entity. And they almost timed this bottom perfectly. I would not be surprised if they bought pretty much the exact bottom. You see, December 7 was $3,400 on Bitcoin. And yeah, massive rally. It's over 10x. So yeah, each wallet is worth 318 million now, but they bought each of these wallets for like 30 million, maybe a little bit less than that. But still, whoever bought this owns a lot of Bitcoin. I mean, we're talking about 25 wallets worth 300 something thousand. They own like $7-8 billion worth of Bitcoin. I'm not sure who that is, but it is fascinating. I don't think they've taken any profits either. Maybe they have some other wallets that don't have exactly 8,000 Bitcoin. Maybe they hold some other wallets. I haven't gone back far enough to see if there are other wallets that also have a 12/5 date with different amounts in it. But whoever that is, good for them. They timed the bottom almost perfectly. Now, moving on, we have a stockbroker or stock company, stock platform, I should say, that just allowed trading of the Bitcoin ETFs today. And I noticed this because I got sent this. I hold an account over at M1 Finance. If you haven't heard about that, it's fine. It's not the same size as Fidelity or BlackRock or Vanguard or anything like that. They're much smaller, but they allowed the trading of GBTC, BITO, among some other ETFs today. And I noticed that they hadn't approved ETFs for trading the day that we got the news, or January 11. But they weren't like Vanguard. They weren't purposely trying to do it. I think they just moved slowly. They went through their own compliance, probably took a look at the ETFs, and then they allowed people to start buying them today, like 2 weeks later. So this is a good reminder. Some people still don't have access or don't want to move brokerages. So once they do get approved, once these ETFs get approved to be sent on or to be bought on more platforms, more people will have access to them and will start buying them. So I think this is a positive sign. Now, my phone's going off. Let's move on from there. The last week and a half, 2 weeks has been tough for a lot of people, but I think it's important to remember how bad the actual bear market was. I mean, let me roll through some of the things that happened. We had every single yield platform collapse. Celsius, BlockFi, Voyager, everything that gave you 4%, 5%, 10% yield on your assets collapsed. And this was largely in part due to hedge funds collapsing. There are a couple hedge funds that collapsed that these entities had given loans to, and the hedge funds unloaded a bunch of crypto. The exchanges are still unloading crypto. Like FTX just unloaded $1 billion worth of GBTC, which caused $1,000 worth of Bitcoin selling. Speaking of FTX, the second largest cryptocurrency exchange in the world collapsed. There was fears of Binance collapsing. That was a real fear. Like we thought that there's probably at least some people thought there was a 50-50 chance, or maybe even more than that. We had the worst first half of the year for the stock market in 40 plus years. You might be saying, why does that matter? Well, when people are not making money in stocks, when stocks are at really big discounts, some people just go that way because they can still get a good return by buying Amazon or Google or Facebook or Tesla because, well, they're down a lot and they actually have real cash flows as opposed to crypto. So some people just weren't willing to invest in crypto because stocks were already down. That was the worst first half of the year. NASDAQ was down like 30-something%, and certain companies were down 75%, like Tesla. We had the third largest stablecoin collapse. I believe it was around $20 billion, maybe $30 billion in market cap. That was UST. That was crazy. And the first and second largest stablecoins also depegged. 10%, 20% depegs. That was crazy. We're talking about USDC and USDT. The two most trusted stablecoin options in the market were depegging. We didn't know if they would come back because we had already seen one go down to zero. We didn't know if they had all the reserves that they said they did. We didn't know if people were going to be able to even trade back from Bitcoin or Ethereum into other assets because they were depegged. It's just nuts. And then we also saw a $40 billion TVL collapse in Anchor Protocol. So if you think the last couple of weeks of selling has been bad, this is nothing. Like there's no real bad news. It's just that we got a fundamentally bullish thing that happened that cause short-term pain. We have some selling. It's fine. We'll make it through. Keep in mind that there's about 10,000 Bitcoin a day being reacquired by some of these ETFs. This is up from 1,000 before the Bitcoin ETFs. Yes, we have miners selling, but that's what they always do, right? They always sell. It's just a question of whether they hold and sell later or sell right away. About 100 to 150 million a day of average net buying so far, up from 30 to 40 million the day before the ETFs launch. Volume and inflows are increasing, not decreasing, and advisors have not started selling Bitcoin yet. We saw certain stock brokers have not even started allowing Bitcoin trading yet. A lot of the advisors haven't even started training to explain what the Bitcoin ETFs are. The Fed has not cut rates yet, but they're expected to cut between 1 and 1.25% this year. Truflation shows data showing data that inflation is under 2%. BlackRock and Fidelity are waiting for the GBTC bleed to complete before even starting to deploy the capital that they have sitting on the sidelines. I'm not sure about that, but a lot of them haven't been advertising heavily yet. We know that Google changes their ad guidelines towards crypto in 5 days. Major advisors are not even allowed to fill Bitcoin ETF demand orders as compliance combs through their approvals. The supply is about to drop from 900 a day to 450 a day, which is big. I mean, all that Bitcoin is going to be sold at some point. So when the supply goes down, that causes a lot less selling pressure. The miners are still selling and not holding like they normally do in a bull run. Also, options have not been filled. They're not available for Bitcoin, which means some people that want to have cash flowing assets that might want to buy Bitcoin and just sell options against it can't do that yet. So yes, we do have a lot of doom and gloom right now, but it's honestly not that bad, and we have a lot of fundamentally bullish things that are going to happen throughout the year. Keep in mind, this is coming from Peter Schiff too. We saw a surge, after a massive surge in M2 money supply, we started to see contractions from July 2022 until April 2023. This was during the time where the Fed was really tightening really quickly. A lot of other countries were too. After a period of consolidation, it's now expanding again, spiking 0.5% last month. That is actually really quick. Total M2 likely to swell to a new high in 2024 as the Fed resumes QE. He does say that will send year-over-year CPI soaring above 10%. I think he's talking his book there because he likes gold. But either way, the Fed is likely to start quantitative easing this year, like we said, cutting rates, and that definitely helps risk assets. Keep in mind, too, you can't rely on anything but yourself for retirement. Nikki Haley wants to raise the minimum age of Social Security to 70 plus. This is a reminder to not rely on your government for your retirement. Invest and secure your own future. I don't think this is likely to be pushed back. It would alleviate some of the issues with the fact that it's so underfunded. But I'm not relying on Social Security. I'm not saying that we should push it back or we should move it forward or we should keep it the same. I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying you can't really rely on it unless you're very close to it. It's just a massive Ponzi scheme. I'm not relying on Social Security. I don't even factor it in when I am looking at retirement. It's so far away. There's a good chance we don't have enough. We don't get it, especially when you look at how bad inflation has been. Even if it goes up 2%, if we continue to increase how much we're going to get by 2% a year, 3% a year, chances are it's going to be worth a lot less than we think it is. So keep that in mind. The assets that are worth buying that are investable are going up much faster than inflation. Yes, inflation apparently has come down to 3%, but the assets that you want to invest in are going up 10%, 20%, 50%, 100%. Bitcoin's going up 150% in the last year. So yeah, you can put off investing, but you might have to buy these assets at a much higher price in the future. Not just the cost of inflation. It's going to be like you're buying and paying a lot more for these high quality investments in the future. Because everyone just wants their hands on them. Everyone wants to buy Bitcoin. And it might not seem like it, but zoom out a little bit and you can see Bitcoin continues to go up. People continue to bid up the price of Bitcoin. Same thing with any good quality company that has increasing business. So stay on your game. Don't think that the government's going to bail you out. I know you know that because you're watching this video, but it's important for other people to understand that too. Now, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I will see you guys in the next video. Again, you can check out the link to Margex underneath the video or to HGAccess. Again, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next.